Well, here we are. It's the end of July, still in the midst of the offseason, and we are still making videos on the 2022 first overall pick, Juraj Slafkovsky. Now, I don't actually remember the last time we had talked about this guy. I feel like there was a video in there talking about whether or not we're worried about him, but I don't remember if we made anything else after that. So instead, with this video, what I wanted to do was explore a little bit of an idea that I saw tossed around on the Montreal Canadiens subreddit. You know, I have to make videos every day, this is kind of my job, so I'm always scouring the internet, scavenging the deep, dark depths of the web to try to find conversation topics, and this popped up on the Canadian sub earlier this week, and I saw it and I was like, okay, that's a pretty interesting idea, like I'm actually intrigued to get the viewers' input on this. When we made the video a few weeks ago asking if fans are worried about Slafkovsky, you could see the comments are pretty hot and cold, I guess you could say. Some of y'all were a little bit concerned. Some of y'all said, yeah, like, I mean, it sucks that he performed this poorly or he was injured for all this time, so he didn't get the proper production. But we had a lot of Canadiens fans as well bouncing back saying, yeah, no, the guy's only 18, he's fine, he'll be okay. And so with this idea in mind, what I wanted to do is direct your attention to a post made by Confidence is Key on the Habs sub. It's a simple post, all it says is Slafkovsky's year. Is it just me, or do I feel like he's going to have a hell of a season flanking Suzuki and Cole? I expect a huge year by Slafkovsky. Now, that's it. That's the Reddit post. That's all we're talking about here in this video, and it's not even that big of a Reddit post. It's just, hey, is anybody else excited? I am. But the thing is, when you talk about Juraj Slafkovsky in this way, you talk about the Slafkovsky line, the Slav-Caulfield-Suzuki line. This was something that we didn't really see too much of last season, and I guess you could probably say that was by design. It was for good reason why Marty St. Louis didn't just immediately thrust Slafkovsky into a #1 winger role right away. I don't think he would have been able to handle it after all. And so, when it comes to some of the comments on this Reddit post, the first one is really highlighting the idea I wanted to focus on here, posted by Emer1929. I think, they say, that Juraj Slafkovsky will have a productive season playing with Sean Monahan, who slows the game down, and who is an ideal line mate. Hip Tragically Broken goes out there and says, yeah, by the way, funny username, Tragically Hip, eh? Slafkovsky, Monahan, and Newhook. I love this line, but I don't know where Dach and Anderson could end up playing. Dach is the bigger question mark, however, because he can become a power center, and I believe he should continue to get his auditions for that role. On the other hand, big right-handed Josh Anderson is not suited to be on our first line, or on anybody's first line. And the best fit I see for Caulfield and Suzuki is Dach. Maybe Newhook or Raphael Harvey-Pinard could fill that role temporarily, but I don't see them as a long-time fix. I totally agree, though, that Slafkovsky should wing for Monahan, however the lines get built. And getting aside from all of the conversations about lines, because we could make hour-long videos talking about the line combinations and who should play with where. There are 12 players on a forward core. That's a lot of combinations. What's the factorial amount there? I don't really know how the math works, but I wanted to focus mostly on Juraj Slafkovsky and Sean Monahan. Because when it comes to these two guys, not only do the playstyles fit pretty well, but I wanted to talk about their stories individually. Because when it comes to how both of these guys could potentially converge on the same line next season, it could be the ultimate redemption arc for not just one or the other, but for both of them together. Sean Monahan, as we had talked about earlier this offseason, was re-signed by the Montreal Canadiens to a very good contract. You see, he was making a boatload of money as a member of the Calgary Flames, so much so that they actually paid a first-round pick to Montreal to take the contract off their hands. $6.375 million is a pretty steep amount, and for a guy who ended up faltering in the ways that he did to the point that he didn't actually play for Calgary in the playoffs when they made the second round, you could already tell the writing was on the wall there. In Montreal, though, Monahan had 17 points in 25 games played, a very small sample size, but a productive one at that. And because of the injuries that he had sustained, he ended up getting a second chance with Montreal, signing on to a one-year deal. No trade protection, it's just under $2 million a year. It's a pure prove-it deal if I've ever seen a prove-it deal. And for a guy like Sean Monahan, who made his bread and butter in the NHL by being a versatile, playmaking, goal-scoring center with some good two-way game and some very decent mobility, this could be the best chance possible for him to go out there and prove his worth, because he showed off really well in Montreal in the small sample he had. Heading into next season, though, if he plays with Juraj Slafkovsky, a guy whose breathing is apparently already 20% better than it was last season, this could be a very nice pair of redemption. Because for Uri, he's got his own demons that he's battling with. Sure, he didn't get bought out by a Calgary Flames team that sought him to be their savior after all those years of mediocrity, but he was a first overall pick that didn't live up to the first overall pick hype in year one. Now, whether or not that's his fault, you could debate it. You could say he's just not good enough. You could say that we're not worried and it was a bad year. But next season, Juraj Slafkovsky is going to be 19. He's already going to know what it's like to be an NHL player, and hopefully he'll be able to take some of the attributes, the skills that he had accrued against other men in international competition in the Finnish Liga in prior years and apply that to the National Hockey League game. He's got to keep his head up a little bit more. He's got to be able to find open space. He's got to get the confidence to just fire the puck on goal more and beat goaltenders. If Sean Monahan is the guy who's setting him up, then this could be a pretty nice pairing because Monahan slows the game down. Monahan draws players to him, opening up space for other teammates. Monahan was on Gaudreau's line for such a long time. Do you remember in 2014-15 that top line in Calgary was Monahan, Gaudreau, and Yuri Hudler of all people? Hudler had like 70 points that season. It was crazy. All of those guys have been very good players, and for Monahan, he knows what it's like to play such a style that allows his wingers to succeed. For Juraj Slafkovsky, that's the boost that he kind of needs. And so heading into next season, if you have this Monahan-Slafkovsky pairing together, not only is there a projectable play style that fits, but there's also two very unique stories coming together and maybe, hopefully, redeeming themselves at the same time. Now, as for the final winger, you could talk about Alex Newhook, you could talk about how he will add an element of speed that neither of these guys really possess. You could talk about a few other names there, toss around Josh Anderson, whatever, but at the end of the day, this is a slow building process. The Montreal Canadiens are getting better year after year. It's not going to get super amazing right away. And for Juraj Slafkovsky, if he goes out there and has, let's say, a 40-point year, I think that would be a really solid season for what he's able to accomplish. For Sean Monahan, let's assume he plays 82 games. He hasn't done that in 7 years, pretty much. If he plays 82 games and gets 40 to 50 points himself, I feel like that's a really good season for Monahan. And if he plays really well, like let's say by the trade deadline he is one of the better Canadiens in points, all of a sudden the Habs have the ability to flip him for more assets at the trade deadline. Now, whether or not you would want to say that's a good move, you want to keep Monahan around, maybe sign him to an extension after this upcoming season if he is good, maybe keep him with Slafkovsky, because if you have players that know how to make your younger players better, you would want to encourage that and nurture that sort of relationship. Maybe that's the point of view you're coming from. But the Canadiens have more to gain by giving Sean Monahan a stage and allowing him to play his game. And for Juraj Slafkovsky, this guy might be the player that allows that to happen. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the idea of Sean Monahan and Juraj Slafkovsky playing together in 2023-2024? Do you like the sound of this pairing? Do you not? What are your opinions on who the final winger should be, assuming this is a legit thing? What are your thoughts on the rest of the Canadiens lineup? We're going to make more videos about this as the days go on, but I wanted to introduce this topic because I did like it a lot. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Slafkovsky, about Monahan, the lines, the deployment, etc. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.